I just saw this other story about the Indian guy, the Sikh guy who is a TV, not a TV, is an automobile dealer owner and a huge supporter of the Toronto Raptors basketball team,
Oh,
and has been doing a lot of stuff for them. Are you familiar with this guy? It just
no.
showed up on my feed out of
Oh.
nowhere.
I think I might have heard it just in passing, but
The
because
story was that apparently he's like really well known and a fixture in Toronto, and that some guy had thrown some racial epithets at this guy, and so rather than get mad at him, he invited him to dinner and invited him to a playoff game, and they became friends for life. And it's like he's very inclusive and doing the right thing and bringing diversity to the sport and so on. So
that's really awesome. I mean, I love hearing stories about people that do stuff like that. Um, and yeah, like I sometimes wonder, like, where do people get off thinking that it's okay to throw out racial slurs at another person?
yeah, it's just
Like some stuff, man, I'll tell you, I've probably said some stuff out of ignorance that I didn't mean to, whether it was racial or whether it was just like an insult.
mhm.
Like where it's like, oh geez, like I didn't mean for it to be taken that way, or I didn't even realize that it was offensive to the other person, right? Like that
Right.
stuff to me is kind of forgivable, and those are teachable moments where if the person comes to you and says, hey man, that really hurt and that's not acceptable, you'd be like, oh, well maybe I need to check myself a little bit, and maybe I need to, you know what I mean, like take that take that phrase or take that thought out of my mind and out of my vernacular. That's one thing, but the other one is when you feel like you're entitled to, like, talk down to somebody because they don't look like the
Yeah.
majority or they don't act like the majority. It's just like, man, no one's asking you to be their biggest fanboy or fangirl, but like you're on the same playing field. Put them on the same level as you, because you're not, I mean, we know this, right? You're not better than anybody else just because of how you look or what you believe or what you know what I mean? Nothing.
Yeah,
And even
yeah,
in like
and on that
education, right?
note,
Like, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say that I wanted to bring this up today because I just got to that part in QG's book about him being treated badly by the pitching coach
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
at the Cubs, and that was actually hard for me to read, and then I had to look it up. It's Chris Bosio, right? The is the
Okay.
pitching coach, and he's had issues since then with black what was it team clubhouse attendant or something like that. It's like, and it
Oh,
was just ongoing. It wasn't just once or twice. It was just a concerted thing. And he's definitely a white supremacist and so on. He's been disciplined by Major League Baseball and the team and kicked off the team. And it's just an ugly story. But I was really sad to read the part about QG having to suffer through that and not really
yeah.
understanding what was going on, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, that was one of the parts of the book that was probably the most enlightening to me,
Hmm.
was him talking about his majors experience. So that part of it was like really hard to hear. And then also, like I mentioned in my Merton interview, and I think I might have mentioned in the book report that I did, he also hurt himself by trying to bulk up too much because he thought he
Yeah.
needed it to be in the majors, and that ended up kind of screwing his major league career, which really was hard to hear as well. So yeah, really good book, and yeah, it just kind of follows on that same note. Now, like on that note, I mean, I don't want to get too political or too like, well, whatever. We can stray as much as we want. This is the post-show, if it even is yet.
We're not
But
recording this, are we? Oh,
I'm
we are?
recording it, but
Oh,
it
okay.
doesn't mean that this is going to be
Doesn't
aired.
matter. I don't mind.
But I mean, it's kind of this. This is the kind of stuff that, I mean, we can talk about. So, speaking of, was it Chris Bosio? Was that his name? You said,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Basio.
the situation in that type of situation, like, okay, so on one hand, like you got to fire a guy like that because of the way that he treats players or staff or whoever it might be, right? But at the same
Hmm.
time, if you're just firing him and you're not trying to fix him, so to speak, or educate him or reprogram him or whatever you want to call it, give him some mental and cultural rehab, then you're not really doing a service to anybody except for the people that he was hurting, but he's just going to find other people to hurt in the long run. It's kind of like the prison system where when you're just throwing guys in prison but you're not actually doing anything to reintegrate them into society and trying to get them to, you know what I mean, like look at the deeper issue and fix what's actually wrong.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
a murderer is a murderer, but he was born the same as you and I, right? I mean, he was a baby that cried when he came out of the womb, and he was very cute in his parents' eyes, probably, right? I mean,
Hopefully, yeah.
yeah, hopefully, right? But somewhere along the line something went wrong, and whether it was a condition that he was quote unquote born with, you know what I mean, like,
Mhm.
something mental or chemical, or whether it was something that happened in his life that changed him to the point where he thought it was okay to take another person's life. It doesn't mean that he's irreparable or that putting him in prison is the correction, right? I'll show you, I'm going to throw you in prison for, 20 years. And then if you're good, you can get out. No, I mean, it's the same thing, with firing this guy. If he gets fired and you don't actually do anything to address the root issue, it's just going to come back again eventually. And let's say this guy gets fired and he ends up as a coach in a community for Little League. That's the last
Mm.
place you want him,
Oh man, yeah, no kidding.
right? Unless the
Yeah.
issue's been fixed. I mean, he's going to be raising up a bunch of other racists unless that gets fixed. So if a team is desperate for a coach and they hear about this guy and he's like, hey, I'll do it, I've got this experience, or he talks the talk and they don't know his background, he might get that job, and that might be the worst thing, not only for him but for the people that he's coaching and the community. So it's got to go beyond just firing. But yeah, so anyways, all this talk, I want to ask you a couple of questions, man. And this is
Sure.
something as like because you're an old fan. I'm not saying you're old man, old fan.
I'm both.
Okay, both. Well, anyway, that's someone that's been a fan of the team for longer than I have, right? You were a fan during the '85 Nipponichi season, and of course, you were a fan, whether following closely or not, in 2003 and 2005 when they won the pennants, correct?
Hmm.
But there were a bunch of other seasons in between, and we're now currently riding a 16-year drought. In the midst of these drought times, um, and okay, so there was also the drought between '85 and '03 as well. And I don't know how close you followed the team or how much hope you had in them winning other pennants, but like every year starts afresh, right? This is spring, and for me, the one that's freshest in my mind is 2018
Mm.
when Kanemoto was in his third year. They'd come off a second place finish where they actually, towards the end of the season, were close to first place. That was in the Carps' little mini run there. But Kanemoto himself said, this is the best team that I've been able to manage so far in 2018. Everyone was excited. Injuries happened. Guys didn't pan out, including but not limited to Rosario. And the team finished last. So do you have any experiences like that from maybe a bit further in the past or whatever, where you had kind of hopes like this is the team that's going to do it, and then you ended up disappointed, something like that? Do you have any stories like that?
Not specifically exactly along those lines, but I was in Tokyo from 85 to '01. So I was a frequent visitor at Jingu Stadium, including the drought, as it were. When we had that run of what, eight subpar finish, or eight out of 10 in the cellar, I think, or something
Yeah.
like that. Um, so yeah, at the beginning of spring, we are like, yeah, let's go for it. And then, halfway through, or maybe, June or July, even sometimes we're like, oh, this year wasn't our year again. But, and so it's almost the wrong way around. But in '92, when we had that run and almost won the Central League pennant and came in second, I think, at the end of it. That was like a lot of fun, and it was disappointing because we were so close, and yet we couldn't get there. So that was like one of the more memorable years for me, um, when I was following the team, and I was following it quite closely. And actually, now that I think about it, right? So I have this on right now. I don't know if you can tell who this would be, but 00 back in those days, it was Kameyama. It was when
Okay.
Shinjo and Kameyama were the stud young guys making things happen,
Right.
and O'Malley was playing, and so on, and that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun to be a part of.
That's
So it
exactly the
doesn't ask.
season.
Yeah,
That's the one I
go
wanted
ahead.
to ask you about, actually, was '92, because amidst that 18-year drought, that was the one season where there was, a glimmer of hope, and it was more than a glimmer, right? I mean, we had good
Yeah,
young talent, and we were near or at the top of the standings, even towards the end of that season.
yeah. I was at Jingu Stadium. I think when we lost to Yakult, and we could have really really benefited our chances. It must have been October, or certainly September. So yeah, we were all excited. Left field bleachers and Jingu Stadium always filled up to maximum capacity well before the right field side, right well before the home field side. It was fun. It was an electric environment, even in Jingu.
So you had a pretty decent crop of Tiger friends then, even in Tokyo, or did you hang out with other Tigers fans, or was it just at games that you saw them, or what was that like?
Oh, I brought my Gaijin friends along with me, and we just like partied like crazy in left field bleachers. I mean, a beer an inning, all that kind of stuff. I mean, that was the deal.
Nice, man. Nice. Did you ever like yell out to the players or get any kind of responses from them or anything like that?
Not for that season, no. I
Who
mean,
was playing? Who was playing left? Was that
I'm
Kame?
trying to think. Um,
Because Shinjo would have been
Gosh,
center, right?
Shinjo was center,
Yeah.
so I guess it would have been no Kamiyama. I think was right field though.
Okay.
I don't know. I'd have
What
to
about
look it up. I'm
Patrick? Was
sorry.
he Jim Patrick? Was he in the outfield or was he infield?
Patrick was playing first base, I think, or
And O'Malley
Pachoric
was third?
was playing. Yeah,
Pachorik.
O'Malley was
Okay.
third. Yeah,
Okay. Got it. Got it. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, so I'm hoping to get to talk with Tom O'Malley and maybe even get in touch with Pachorik and a couple of the other guys as well. And I really want to dig into that season because I think that one, there's a lot of good nuggets in there, right? I mean, like
yep,
you said, we're in the midst of this huge drought. And well, at the time, nobody knew it was going to last another 11 years. But,
right, exactly.
the 6 years prior to that were quite unpleasant, and then the 10 after that were also nightmare like in the way the team finished. So yeah, I think that's a real fascinating look. I think just at an individual season, maybe more so than the last place finishes. I think that one might be an interesting deep dive. So we'll
Yeah,
see about that. Yeah. So we're not going to get into our thoughts about the 2021 season, but uh, Kanemoto, in his third year, was looking great as a manager, and also even the team was looking great. And then they flopped. Yano is heading into his third year as manager, is looking quite good. The team is looking quite good. Is there any part of you that feels like we could be setting ourselves up for another flop here in 2021? Or do you think it's kind of a done deal that we're going to finish, say, at the very least, in the top four?
we're going to be finishing in the top three. We have to be in the A class for sure.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
but first of all, that's me, right? I'm never going to be thinking that we're not going to do well at the beginning of the season.
Right.
So, but this year, I think we really have the horses, as it were, and uh, I think things are lining up nicely for us. I didn't even think about the fact that you were pointing out that we have all our guys in place and the other teams don't, and that would be to our benefit. But that is actually so true. I hadn't considered that, which is another vote in our favor, actually.
So here's my quick take on this, and I'm not going to give away too much as far as my predictions or prognosis for the team. We don't have a ton of superstar talent. We got Sato, but
Yeah.
like I mean, it's just like years past. Like, okay, we didn't have anyone finish in the top 10 or top 5 batting average, right? We had Oyama in the top 3 for home runs, which is a rare thing for the Hanshin Tigers.
Hmm.
But you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, there's not a ton of like elite talent, but there is just a ridiculous amount of replacement value talent. Where, like in 2018, when guys went down with injury, it really devastated the team. When
Hmm.
Rosario didn't pan out, it really rocked, the quality of the game in and game out. And by the way, here's the thing about pinning it on Rosario. He didn't play much after game 100. We didn't fall into last place until like game 130 or something like that, right? So it was
Hmm.
after he was down on the farm that the team sucked and dropped down into last place. So I'm tired
Mm.
of people pinning it on him. Yeah, he didn't produce the way they expected, but they also were not in last place with him in the lineup ever. Okay,
Hmm.
so getting back to this year's team, right? Um, so you got Itohara at second base, for example, right? If he gets hurt,
Hmm.
who's going to replace him? We got
We got
Kumagai, who's having a
lots.
great spring. We got Ueda, who's there. We've got Nakano, the rookie, right? There's 3 guys right there. Hojo, you could throw in there as well because he can play second base. Shortstop, same deal. One guy gets hurt. We got Obata waiting in the wings. We've got a couple other guys waiting for this playing time. And the same is true of so many of these guys. And the other thing I like is that we have a ton of interchangeable parts.
Yeah.
So looking at Oyama at third base, right? Well, he's the fixture, but there is this controversy or this talk of, well, put Sato at third and put Oyama at first. Well, what do you do with Marte, who's hitting the
Yeah.
cover off the
Really.
ball, right? But so let's say Oyama's at third, and let's say he gets hurt. Well, you can bring Sato into third base. What if Sato gets
Mhm.
hurt or doesn't pan out? Well, Yokawa is a natural third baseman as well. So you've got at least 3 quality bats right
Yep.
there at the hot corner. And so all of these positions, I mean, the only position I can think of where we don't have an adequate replacement might be center field.
Yeah, true. Although I'm trying to think, there was somebody that was like, watch out, Chikamoto, this ain't just your position anymore, kind of thing. Trying to remember who that was. I
Not
don't know.
not not Takayama, right? Yeah, yeah, I remember that
Not
too.
Takayama.
I
Not
remember that
Takayama.
too, but I forgot who it was as well. But
I think
anyways,
somebody new and young, I think.
it's
But
escaping
it's
me as
okay.
well. So there you go.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So I don't know. I'm a lot more optimistic now than I was in 2018, and I was pretty optimistic then. But
Hmm.
the thing is, man, like this is a 16-year drought, and it's high time that the team put it to an end. And let's not. I mean, this has been the trend of this team, right? You go back to like the start of the two leagues, 1950 through 1961, nothing, no championships. They got
Yep.
2 and 3 years, and then they went another 21 years with no championships. Then they won the big one. They went another 18 years, right? And then they won 2 and 3 years again, and now we're 16 years from that. So
So you're
if
saying we're due like an earthquake?
well, I really think like if you look at this pattern, right? If there is kind of this what algorithm or this thing going on, right? This repeating
Yeah.
pattern, if we're on a loop, we're due for a Nippon Ichi real soon here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I
and I
think it could
think I
happen,
think
but
also,
I don't want
yeah.
that to be the beginning of another dark ages though.
Well, the good news is that if we have Oyama and Sato in the middle of the lineup, then we're sitting pretty for a number of years to come. And also, I think that really the mindset, the expectations are a lot higher for the team itself, not just the press or the fans or anything like that, but we are an elite team. I think, you know, third place is like the lowest bar that they're willing to accept. And that it should be, we're a number two, number one team right now and probably for a number of years to come. And that's the way the players believe, they are. And I think it's legit.
Well, the lovable loser culture, contrary to what people might think, I mean, that's been dead for almost 20 years now, right? Like our
Yep.
last, besides 2018, our last place finish was 2001, right? And so
Hmm.
like during that quote unquote dark ages, like there were so many last place finishes that everybody basically, felt like the Tigers were the lovable losers or the laughing stock. But if you look at this 16-year drought, and not that I'm trying to say that the team is good or worthy of our respect. Well, in a way they are though. I mean, most of the time they have been finishing in the top three since 2006. So that's another thing that that's another feather in our cap, I guess you could say, is like you said, I think the team culture has changed a lot. And we're not
Hmm.
just like, oh, here we go again, another losing season. It's rather like they're actually putting a good product on the field, and there's a lot of players worth cheering for. And I
Hmm.
think, without having been behind the curtain, I think management and the front office is doing a better job than they were, say, 20, 25, 30 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there you have it, guys. That is our post-show for this day. This is episode 123 post-show. Hope you've enjoyed it. Subscribe to our channel here on YouTube and keep cheering for the Tigers. And just another reminder for you, send your predictions for the Central League standings to my email, which will be in the description of this video, before Sunday, March 22nd, Monday, March 22nd at 11:59 p.m. All right, Sanjay, man, it is always fun to talk Tigers with you. Thanks for joining me for this extra production.
Thanks for having me, brother.
All right, later, everybody.
Take care.